good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, it's fight week, and the return of former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. 29 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'7" with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, Keith Thurman has not been in the ring since the only blemish and loss on his resume took place back in July of 2019 when he took on legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. With that said, it is now fight week for Keith Thurman and his return February 5th, this upcoming Saturday, against former WBA regular champion at junior welterweight, Mexican star boxer who's making his debut at welterweight, Mario Barrios. Okay, Mario Barrios is scheduled to face Keith Thurman this upcoming Saturday. Mario Barrios is 26 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 17 wins by way of knockout, 5'10" with a 71-inch arm reach. Okay, Mario Barrios, that loss, that blemish on his resume was a knockout loss to undefeated 3-division world champion superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis back in June of 2021. He was brutally knocked out in the 11th round of that fight that most people had him winning the first 5 rounds of the fight, okay? He was outboxing Gervonta Tank Davis, but Gervonta Tank Davis, he made adjustments, and Gervonta Tank Davis ultimately took control of the fight, and he knocked out Mario Barrios in the 11th round. With that said, this is the comeback for Keith Thurman over 2 years since we last saw him in the ring. The fight was close between him and Manny Pacquiao. It was a majority decision, although Keith Thurman faced adversity twice. He was dropped in the first round of the fight. Then in the 10th round of the fight, it looked like he was on the verge of getting stopped when Manny Pacquiao landed a hook to the body, and Keith Thurman ultimately had to spit out his mouthpiece, maneuver around the ring to survive the round, okay, and survive the fight ultimately. So with that said, he still fought to a majority draw, okay, a majority decision for Manny Pacquiao. So Keith Thurman still was very, very competitive in the fight. So with that said, you know, Keith Thurman is now looking to make a name and get back into the title contention, okay? And Keith Thurman, he's now insisting, this is fight week now, he's insisting that his fight with Mario Barrios that's scheduled to take place this upcoming Saturday at the Mandalay Bay Arena, Keith Thurman is insisting now is still a title eliminator, okay? So with that said, we know that Keith Thurman, he did, you know, the build-up for the fight, press conferences, things of that nature, interviews, etc. to promote the fight and build up the fight. He stated that he was surprised to find out that the World Boxing Council, better known as the WBC, President Mauricio Suleiman and the board have decided to make his fight against Mario Barrios a title eliminator for the highly anticipated Unification Showdown winner between undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr., 27 wins, no losses, no draws, 21 big wins by way of knockout. He's 31 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. He's scheduled to face off against Cuban star boxer who is the WBA World Boxing Association welterweight super champion, Yordenis Ugas. Yordenis Ugas is 27 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, and 12 wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 69-inch arm reach. So he has extremely short arms to be that tall. But it looks like it's going to take place April 16th in Dallas, Texas, on pay-per-view. With that said, Keith Thurman is now saying he's going to be the mandatory challenger for that fight. He's being informed that that's the case. Now, when he initially announced that this was going to be the case, it was a title eliminator because everybody was expecting after this fight for Keith Thurman to face off against undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terrence Bud Crawford. Terrence Crawford is 38 wins, no losses, no draws, 29 big wins by way of knockout, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach at 34 years of age. Keith Thurman, he stated that after his fight with Mario Barrios that, you know, give him 8 months, which will land in July. then he would love to face off against Terrence Crawford after Terrence Crawford had defeated a former rival foe of his and friend and two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, who had retired after his 10th round stoppage loss to Terrence Crawford and is a surefire Hall of Famer. With that said, Terrence Crawford, he did something that's never been done. He stopped Shawn Porter, and Shawn Porter's never been stopped, and he dropped him twice in the fight. That's never happened either, okay? So with that said, Shawn Porter had been dropped, but not twice, and definitely not in one round. So Terrence Crawford dropped him twice. Shawn Porter's father, trainer, manager, Kenny Porter, saw enough, waved the white towel, okay, in the 10th round. So after that fight, Keith Thurman, he said he wasn't overly impressed with the victory from Terrence Crawford, that Terrence Crawford, he saw a lot of flaws in Terrence Crawford that he felt like he could, capitalize on, and that give him 8 months, then he can make the fight happen between himself and Terrence Crawford. Well, Terrence Crawford, he responded, he said, why we got to wait 8 months? Let's do it right now. But you must not be confident in yourself. 8 months would be right on schedule with Keith Thurman's normal schedule. Keith Thurman went on a hiatus after his March 2017 victory in the unification bout against two-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, who was the WBC welterweight champion at the time, and Keith Thurman was the WBA champion, and he beat Danny Garcia. That was March of 2017. We didn't see Keith Thurman back into the ring until January of 2019 when he fought Josito Lopez. He beat Josito Lopez, but he didn't look that well in that fight. He looked vulnerable. Josito Lopez looked like he was on the verge of stopping Keith Thurman. Nonetheless, Keith Thurman weathered the storm. He even dropped Josito Lopez in the fight. He won the decision. Then in July of that year, he fought Manny Pacquiao. So this is right about the schedule that Keith Thurman normally has. Come back fighting in January. Now, obviously, this fight is taking place February 5th, but, just a week out from January. And then he's looking to fight, again in July. That's on schedule, so on par. So Terrence Crawford, he's obliging, he's willing to take the fight. But Keith Thurman is saying now that the fight is going to be Mario Barrios, a title eliminator. So he's putting Terrence Crawford in the rearview mirror and on the back burner because he wants the opportunity. That's an opportunity lifetime for Keith Thurman. As he stated, I could fight and win all 3 belts, okay? And Keith Thurman has an old school mentality where he believes that to be undisputed, all you need is the 3 belts, okay? The WBC, the WBA, and the IBF in the Ring magazine. That makes you undisputed. The WBO became one of the major sanctioned belts back in 1998, around 1998-99, okay? The World Boxing Organization. That's when it became official belt, okay? Because if you look back to Vitaly Klitschko, okay, let's say Vitaly Klitschko, when he won the WBO title, I believe it was back in 99, that's when around the time it wasn't even considered a major sanction belt at that time. Okay. So, it's fairly new, to being one of the major sanction belts. There's a handful, this limited amount of fighters that held all 4 major sanction belts. You have, number 1, Bernard Hopkins. He was the first to do it when he beat, Oscar De La Hoya in a unification undisputed match to hold all 4 major sanction belts. And then Jermaine Taylor beat Bernard Hopkins to earn those honors. Okay, and then Terrence Crawford, 12 years later, he won against Julius Ndongo. 12 years after Bernard Hopkins and Jermaine Taylor did it, he did it 12 years later against Julius Ndongo. And then a year later, you had Oleksandr Usyk do so at cruiserweight. And then most recently, you had Josh Taylor do it at junior welterweight, become the second fight at junior welterweight. And then you had, now you have Canelo Alvarez to do so in November against Caleb Plant in the super middleweight division. So with that said, the WBO belt has not become a major belt in a very long time. When again, and back in 1999, okay, when Vitaly Klitschko won the belt, it still wasn't even a major sanction belt. It didn't become a major sanction belt till a few years later. So it's fairly new. Okay, so with that said, Keith Thurman still has the mindset to become undisputed. All you need is the 3 belts. So Keith Thurman is saying it's the opportunity of a lifetime, and that he's going to chomp at the bit and he's going to have to put the Terrence Crawford fight on the back burner, and he'll revisit that later on after should he beat the winner of Errol Spence Yordenis Ugas fight. Okay. Now, what's interesting, obviously, is Errol Spence. He has zero interest in fighting Keith Thurman. He's on record stating that he's not going to fight Keith Thurman. He doesn't even like Keith Thurman as a person or a personality. And if it came down to him having to fight Keith Thurman to become undisputed, because Errol Spence, he too wants to hold all 4 major sanction belts. He wants to create history, and it's a glamour division and a welterweight division. So he wants to fight Terrence Crawford. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford make for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing currently as it stands. And so that's the fight that he's looking to have happen, okay? And so with that said, now, the WBC, apparently, according to Keith Thurman, is stepping in, and they are going to order this fight to be a title eliminator, which would make Yordenis Ugas, Errol Spence, win to have to face Keith Thurman. Now, Mauricio Sulaiman, he came out and he stated that they would not order Keith Thurman to fight, or the winner, Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas, to have to fight Keith Thurman next, okay? So which means Keith Thurman definitely has time, to fight Terrence Crawford, okay? Or, it's the winner, Errol Spence, Yordenis Ugas fights Terrence Crawford. They're not going to order Keith Thurman to be the mandatory for the winner of the fight. Well, Keith Thurman, this is fight week, and now is saying once again that he's going to get his opportunity. He's going to be the mandatory for Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas winner. Now, again, the WBC, President Mauricio Sulaiman and the board, they change the rules as they go. Who knows? Okay, they introduced this franchise title to the sport of boxing, and initially they stated you can't win it or lose it. It was just an honor. Okay, it wasn't it was a trophy. It was an acknowledgement of your hard work and your accomplishments within the sport, but it can't be passed from one fighter to another. Okay, it's not a traditional belt. Well, they changed those rules. Now they're allowing fighters to win the franchise title and consider themselves undisputed when they're truly not, like in the lightweight division with George Kambosos Jr. and Teofimo Lopez. Okay, so they change rules as they go. So there's no telling what the WBC may do. Are the WBC going to order Errol Spence, Yordenis Ugas fight? I think this truly hinges on Errol Spence's mindset, okay? Because if Errol Spence does not want this fight, and he lets the powers that be know he's not interested in fighting Keith Thurman, well, then they will not order Errol Spence to have to fight Keith Thurman next. Okay, they will give Errol Spence, should he win, wiggle room. Now, there's different rules for different players in the game. If Yordenis Ugas happens to beat Errol Spence, you can bet your bottom dollar that they'll order Yordenis Ugas to fight Keith Thurman, okay? Because if Yordenis Ugas goes and fights Terrence Crawford, there's no guarantee he's going to bring those belts back, okay? You keep it in-house with Keith Thurman and Yordenis Ugas. If he fights Yordenis Ugas, who calling out Terrence Crawford and wants to fight with Terrence Crawford, and he beat Terrence Crawford in the amateurs, he wants that fight. But if he loses, all those belts leave the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions. All the belts leave because it's an undisputed match, okay? Now you run that same risk with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, but it's a much bigger fight for Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Just think, if they're saying it's not a lot of money for Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, then where's the money going to come from for Terrence Crawford and Yordenis Ugas? So with that said, who knows what the rules going to be, but Keith Thurman is standing on the square and saying he's being promised that he's going to get his opportunity. So let's see how this unfolds. First thing first, Keith Thurman has to get past Mario Barrios on Saturday, which I highly expect him to do. And I expect Keith Thurman to drop Mario Barrios, but I expect Keith Thurman to win a unanimous decision. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Oh, it is your boy Jada Kiss. Make sure you check out Blue Blood Sports TV. It's going down.